Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to your Thursday. Welcome to another episode of Veganish, and welcome to the fastest 30 minutes of your week. I am Dr. Monique. I am a board certified family physician known as a physician in the kitchen. And here on Veganish, we talk about all things plant based. I share with you my ways that I'm learning how to incorporate a more plant based diet and bring you along for the ride. And I have my trusty co host with me, Mr. Ellis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I missed the show last week, and so I'm really looking forward to getting this in because we got a great topic. It is a viewer's choice show, and so we're just so excited to be able to bring that to you here on Veganish.
That's right. Happy March. We've made it through February. We already are almost one quarter of the way through this year, believe it or not. Hopefully it's starting to look a little bit like spring wherever you are. It's beautiful. It's beautiful here in Charlotte today. It was in the 80s. So speaking of wherever you are, you know what we do with this show. We rep our city, we rep our zip code, we rep our country. So please drop where you are. Let us know where you are tuning in, where you're watching us from. And more importantly, because sharing is caring, please tag someone and tell them to come on in here and fellowship with us. Because we're dropping knowledge, we're sharing, we're learning, and we're growing together. So today we're going to switch things up a little bit and talk. We're going to start off with our nutrition in the news as segment, and then get into the viewer's choice topic. So, because you all are so, I just enjoy, like Ella said, I enjoy this time with you all. And because you all are, some smart cookies. So that keeps me on my toes. What's the saying? Iron sharpens iron. Is that what it is?
That's it. That's
You
it.
know? So I've got to be on my game. So I'm always looking for things that I think will bring value to you guys. So, okay, so people are coming in. We've got Florida. I think I saw Ohio, New York City. Yes, yes, yes. I will actually be there in a couple of weeks. So excited. If I could live there, I would. So that's home for me. So I'm just a little bit biased. So this week we are going to talk about naan. I wanted to just discuss a little bit with you the benefits or the health benefits of naan, Naan. So if any of you have heard of that, I'm sure you have. Drop it in the chat. For those who don't know, naan is a flatbread that's very common in Indian cuisines, Persian cuisines. My favorite is garlic naan. Oh, with cilantro, I could just, yum, 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 yum. And so some people, think eating that might be healthier for them versus white bread or pita bread. So I wanted to spend just a few minutes kind of comparing and contrasting when you would want to eat naan, or is it been healthier for you versus, plain old white bread. And you can probably guess, like, the rap that plain white rice and bread gets around this show, you kind of can get an idea um, what I'm gonna say.
Can't be
But
good. It can't be good.
it can't be good. Well, but whole wheat, right? How
Right.
many times in this show we've talked about eating the more natural, the least processed form of the nutrient is going to be better for you. So non made from whole wheat or even from chickpeas, some non-wheat flours are going to be much better for you than those made from processed white bread. So naan is actually a great source of protein, of fiber, but it does have quite a bit of carbs. So you do have to kind of, take that into account if you're watching your carbs, and that's where some of those alternative sources would come in handy. But per one piece of commercially prepared, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm a snob. I only eat naan from Indian restaurants. Like I don't buy it from my local grocery store. It has to be made in an Indian restaurant.
That's
So
first world problems. That's
first world problems. Well,
first world.
I like to be authentic when I can be. So yeah. But yeah, so one piece is gonna have about 260 calories, but it's a great source of iron. It's got some B vitamins in it as well. But please be aware there is the risk for some saturated fat as well as the high carb load. So you want to just kind of be careful and be mindful of that. But switching up your bread every now and then can't be a bad thing because um you want to add variety. So some naan comes with too much oil on it. Yeah, they can, depends if they're a little heavy handed with it. But yeah, but the cilantro and the garlic, oh, that takes me to my happy place. So
You know, my southern tongue wants to say now, but I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm in rehab. I'm trying to get better.
well, you know, that's all we ask, right? What do we always say on here? Progress, not perfection, right? So yeah, it's non, it's pronounced non, kind of like vegan or not, right? Kind of like so. But yeah, I just thought this was a really good thing to share. It may have actually help to manage blood sugar too, because the glycemic index, we've talked about that before, basically that number of how high your number goes up after you eat a carbohydrate load. Um, it's about in the 50s, and so that's actually pretty good. So that means
Mhm.
it cause a lower spike in your sugar than something um, that's got a higher number. So it can be anywhere from like in the 50s to the low 70s. So, but yeah, so just wanted to share that, guys, with you. So I am super excited about this week's topic. But before we get into that, I have to do the make the lawyers happy and give the little disclaimer, but about being mindful that this information we are sharing with you is meant to entertain and inform. It is not meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness. And please be sure to take any information we share with you back to your own personal physician and make sure that you work with him or her to find out what's best for you. So, Ellis, what do you think about the skinny on fat? What's your impressions going into this before we get started?
You know, I know a little bit about a little bit about fat. I know I don't need to eat a lot of it, and I know I need to be trying to remove it from my body as much as possible, um, and out of my diets. But I know enough to be dangerous.
So
say
there
that.
you go. Little knowledge can be dangerous. Well, yeah, we're gonna get into the skinny on fat. And thank you so much to the viewer who asked for this topic because it's important. You know, we know about it. Like Ella said, we know we may know a little bit about it, but we know maybe not enough, or we have questions. So hopefully, after this these next few minutes, you'll come away with a better understanding. So first of all, what is fat and why do we have it, right? Because we're always trying to exercise it away. I talk about me being on my Peloton and, people are going to get all these procedures done. So why do we have it? Well, fat actually, like most things in moderation, is actually beneficial for your body. Fat is used as a storage, it's an energy storage form. It's used to make certain, it helps with cell structure, it helps to make hormones that your body needs. It acts as insulation, right? And cushion.
Mhm.
So it cushions those vital organs, your liver, your kidneys. Um, and it also helps with brain function as well. It's a source of fuel for your brain at times as well. And it is important in vitamin storage. There are certain vitamins that are what we call fat soluble, meaning that they are stored um, in the fat of your body. So fat has benefits. Where it becomes a problem is what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's kind of throw out a couple of medical terms first so that we make sure we all are on the same page. Because I hope if you're going to the doctor and the doctor is not saying, you're fat or using that word. So we use the two couple of words that I want to make sure you understand are adipose and obesity. So
Okay.
adipose is the medical or the chemical term for fat. Okay, that yellow, fatty, or waxy kind of looking. I'm sure, and I don't know, Ellis. I should put up a picture of the pound of
No,
fat.
you don't need that.
Did you
No,
do
you
like
don't
I
need that.
remember that like in middle school, like they or high school when in health class we had the pound of the rubber fake fat. But yeah, so it's that yellow kind of waxy substance that we're talking about. So that's adipose or adipose tissue. When you have a lot of that adipose, that's when you are what we call obese. Okay.
Right.
So obesity is when you are carrying more weight than your frame really is made for, is what it comes down to. And so there are different levels of obesity. There's mild, there's moderate, and there's severe. And so on top of that, we have different ways to measure people's weight and their obesity. The most commonly known one is BMI, body mass index, right? That's the one where you go to your doctor's office, they measure your height, they measure your weight, they plug that in, and it calculates this number. If it's between 20 to 25, gravy, you're good. That's considered a normal weight. 26 to 29 is considered overweight, right? So you're starting to kind of creep up there. Could stand to lose a few pounds. 30 is the magic, is the ceiling, or excuse me, I guess the basement, right? So when you hit that 30, that's considered obese. And then there are levels. There's mild obesity is in the 30s, moderate is 40 and up, and then 50 and up is severe. So BMI is a great tool that we use. It's more commonly used, but it's not, it has its flaws. It's not as accurate. It doesn't take into account body composition. It doesn't take into account gender. It doesn't take into account age. For example, Michael Jordan was once labeled obese because his BMI was 27 to 28. And this is when he was playing with the Bulls, not now, not retired Michael, but 6-time ring champion Michael Jordan. So we know that there are flaws in that. Somebody like Dwayne Johnson, who we all know as The Rock, we're not going to measure his BMI, right? Because he's got what, 2% body fat and all those muscles. He's just kind of
All right, move on. Move on.
focus.
Nothing to see here.
so focus. So let me come back. So his muscles have muscles, right? So obviously BMI is not going to be an accurate tool for him. So that's someone where they might want to actually measure their body fat with calipers, which are little, look almost like a little wrench or so. And where the doctor can measure in the back of your arms, your thighs, your stomach, take different measurements to see how much fat you have. So just want to say that there are different ways of measuring things. There's body plethysmography, which is a big fancy term. Basically, they put you in like a tube or a channel, and they can measure how much air and weight you displace and figure out your body fat. But again, most of us are not getting that done. So the BMI is what we tend to start with, but your doctor should take into account if you again are very muscular, if you're elderly, things like that may affect it. Another thing
My
that we
BMI is elevated, just for the record. I just had an insurance assessment where the nurse comes by, and for those that just disclaimers, like when you get life insurance, they send a nurse to your house to make sure that you're not going to need to use it anytime soon, or if you're going to need to use it sooner rather than later, they're going to charge you more. So they're really basically trying to see how much they need to charge you in order to be able to insure you. So
exactly.
I got my numbers back. So of course now I've got a little bit of knowledge. So I start going through all my numbers and looking at, and it got to BMI, and my BMI was high, borderline obese. And as you can tell, I'm not very thick. It's not what you look like. It is how much you weigh versus your height and weight in this calculation. So, but they don't. Whenever they seem to show that my BMI is high, typically they go. They don't even use it. They don't even include that as part of my health assessment, just because I exercise. Moderately muscular. So they say, okay, that's adding to your weight, and then that's going to be it. But blood sugar and everything was great, man. I was feeling kind of good about myself.
Yeah, body muscle is definitely leaner, obviously, and so that can, again, the example I used with The Rock was, when you're made of a lot of muscle, that is going to falsely elevate, or give you an elevated BMI, but it's not saying that you're obese. So another measurement that we use that can be very helpful as far as when we were talking about all of these numbers is your waist circumference, and we've talked about waist circumference before. Waist circumference is where we measure just what it sounds like, the circumference or the width of your, or the how long or wide your waist is, measured from your belly button just above your hips. So for women, that should be less than 35, and for men it should be less than 40. So if you don't mind putting up that apple and pear slide, Alice, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So this is kind of so where this ties in. You've probably, some of you may have heard of, body types, and they talk about, oh, are you shaped like an apple, or are you shaped like a pear? And what they're referring to is, where do you carry your weight? Where do you, so for those of us who have those extra pounds, I call it the extra insulation. We all have six packs. Some of us just have more insulation than others, right? So where do you carry that weight, the adiposity, the fat cells, fat tissue? So the man you see is shaped, he has the apple shape because most of his weight is around his waist. Versus female women, typically, and even more so after menopause, when we lose that protective effect of estrogen, are going to be more pear shaped, where we tend to carry our extra weight on our hips and buttocks. The rationale or the thought behind that is the pear shaped is less likely to be prone to things like heart disease and cancers and things like that, because the apple shaped, that fat is actually encasing the organs, the liver.
Mm.
So that brings me to kind of, let's talk a little bit about the different types of fat, and then maybe make a little more sense of that. So when we talk about the types of
So
fat,
we got a great question. Can you
yeah,
be a
pear
pear
apple,
pole?
a pear apple. I guess what do you mean on top? You're one on the top and one on the bottom. I guess, I mean, in that hourglass, I don't know. I'd have to see what that. I guess it depends on what direction the pear is turned, but um, yeah, this is just a really rough estimate to just give people a way to start thinking about things. But when we talk about the types of fat, that they said actually different types of fat, believe it or not. So when we're born as babies and children, we have something called brown fat, and that actually helps with insulation. It helps newborns, helps them with their with uh maintaining their temperature. And then as we get older, we tend to lose that. But what's interesting is that leaner people tend to have higher levels of brown fat than people who are obese. It
Mm.
actually acts more like muscle, and it burns calories. So that brown fat is actually more metabolically active than the white fat. And y'all, as I'm reading this, I was like, wow, white gets a lot of, white. We talk about how bad white rice is and white bread. Well, that trend continues because the white fat is the one that the people with the apples and the pears, that's that white fat. So as we mentioned before, it is a form of energy storage, but too much of it, and it can lead to things like insulin resistance and certain cancers and stroke and heart attack, all of the stuff that we talk about, joint problems, right? So um, there's also subcutaneous fat. So that's the different types of fat, but where do you store the fat, right? So there are different types of locations where you can store fat. Subcutaneous means under the skin. So if some of you are out there who may be diabetic or who have to inject yourself with whatever medication, and you're giving it subcutaneously, you're giving it into the fat. That's just a layer of fat that's right underneath the skin. Underneath the skin, between the muscle and the skin, is a layer of fat. Versus visceral fat, which is again the apple and pear. That visceral fat is the fat that's encasing those organs and causing those health problems that we've mentioned. And then last, I just wanted to give a dishonorable mention to cellulite, because what woman here, myself included, hasn't looked down at either her abdomen or her thighs and her butt and said, what is that? So cellulite is that kind of lumpy, cottage cheesy, orange peely looking skin, and that's just basically a mismatch. It's the result of a mismatch from the fibers in the skin and the muscle underneath kind of pushing through, and then the fat that's in between those two kind of gets um, you know, puckered. So that's what that cellulite is. It's not necessarily harmful like the other types of fat we discussed, but it's cosmetically maybe not as appealing. So what
Can
do
I
we?
just real quick? I jump in here. So for those of you that work out, especially for my men, that's how you can still have muscles in your abdominal area showing, and still have a protruding stomach and some of this midsection area. And the reason why that is because that's the difference between the subcutaneous versus the visceral fat. And so that layer that's between your muscles is the subcutaneous. So if you are working out, you're really trying to work on that ab area, and and those muscles become bigger and stronger, and you'll be able to see them if that subcutaneous fat is a thinner layer. But if that visceral fat is building up behind it, it's going to still cause your stomach to protrude, and you're going to say, "Why am I doing all these sit-ups and crunches and things like that, and my stomach's so protruding?" It's because you need to do other things to lower that subcutaneous fat, the visceral fat. to
Right.
to lower that area, so where you can have that flat washboard with the six pack.
Well, right, because that's what I was referring to when I said we all have six packs, but some of us just have more information. And so what he's referring to is burning off the because the subcutaneous fat is not the issue.
No.
What's between the the muscles and it's kind of it's both because between the muscle and the skin is the subcutaneous, but what's causing the protruding, the beard belly and all that um is that visceral fat that you don't want and can cause problems. The other thing I wanted to mention too is just as we wrap up for this part is just that, and actually, Ellis, if you don't mind showing those other slides, and I just wanted to say, the purpose of this is not to body shame anyone, not to make anyone feel bad, but we're here to learn and we're here to share knowledge and to hopefully walk away and do better. Not saying that everyone has to be a size 6. That is not realistic. That's not feasible. That's not the case. But you also don't need to carry an extra 100 pounds either. And so it's what we're trying to encourage or to recommend is to be as healthy as you can be in the body that you have, and to really just be more mindful about choices. Because they show up somewhere, and there's a picture of the lovely cellulite for those who are fortunate enough to not know what it looks like. That is a picture of cellulite. So, Ellis, I can't see the chat because I'm not on my laptop. Are there any questions in the chat about what we've talked about so far?
Raymond asked a question earlier. How does the average person get their body fat number?
So that was I'm not sure if he asked that before or while I was talking about it, but so the most accurate way again is going to be those calipers where the doctor kind of just measures the thickness of the fat at the back of the arm, the thigh,
Hmm.
the abdomen. If you're near a research university, where they have those fancier tools like the body plethysmography, that I actually I'm in Charlotte, and there's a I sit on a nutrition research board, and I actually got to go sit in one of those. Um, it looks like a big egg, basically. They didn't measure my body fat, but I just got to sit in it. But yeah, so there's different ways of doing that. But the rough rule of thumb, or the quickest way, your doctor can do it is your waist circumference area, your or your BMI. There's also a measurement that we use sometimes called the body surface area, not really used in a primary care setting per se. That's more for we use it's may used in pediatrics for dosing medications, for dosing chemotherapy, things like that. Certain measuring certain heart and renal functions. But there are other ways to determine how much fat you're carrying. But I would say, rough rule of thumb, your doctor's probably going to start with your BMI, and if there's a mismatch, if it doesn't look right, say for example, if you're very muscular, he may want to refer you on for further testing. But great question.
Next question we've got, Lyra is asking, can a person be fit and fat?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That goes back to what I was saying earlier about not everybody having to be a size 6. I mean, I wouldn't call Serena Williams fat, but she's also not thin, but she's
Right.
very fit. She's more muscular,
Right.
obviously. But yes, I mean, you can be if you can do, you know, we measure fit in a variety of ways. There's your cardiovascular, your endurance. Can you walk up and down a flight of stairs? Can you walk a city block? Can you know, take a 30-minute bike ride or things like that? So those are all measurements of how fit you are. There's a variety of ways. So yes, you can certainly have a higher BMI and be fit. The push or the move though would be to get you to a more healthy BMI to prevent some of the complications of those long-term effects. And speaking of kind of body fat, I do have a little table here I wanted to just show. So roughly ideal body fat content or body fat percentage for men and women. So for women between the ages of 20 to 39, you should roughly be about 20 to 30% fat. For women ages 40 to 59, so menopausal, that creeps up from 23 to 33%. And then over age 60, roughly 24 to 35% is what's the norm. For men, for those same ages, 20 to 39, 8 to 19%. So you see the big difference between men and women. From 40 to 59, it's 11 to 21, and then 60 and up, it's 13 to 24. So
11 to 21. That's an athlete.
that's exactly, that is a really good, that's ideal. That's ideal. That is not, um, true American numbers. That's actually, that's if everyone's eating a plant-based diet, right? So, and
Woo,
it's identified.
man.
So that just gives you, a rough rule of thumb. I have a scale. There are scales now. My scale measures. It tells me what my fat percentage is. I believe there's another woman who's sneaking in here at night and stepping on my scale, but that's another story. But yeah, so there are ways that you could do it, measure your fat at home as well. That the smart technology is really blossoming as far as
Yeah,
being able.
I was gonna say if you have a membership at a gym, I know my gym has that those one of those machines that they can, and
Mhm.
it's not as accurate as with the calipers, but it's not as calipers require some training in order to be able to use those properly. So there's like machines that you can step on and they can kind of give you a kind of a near close measurement of what your body fat is when you stand on there with your weight, but and it does some sort of calculation. Um, you know, also, there's another question. Is there ever a way to get rid of cellulite?
I knew someone was going to ask that question. So, don't we have do we have a plastic surgeon on the platform? That would be a great show for one of our plastic surgeons. There are short-term fixes. There's creams. There's massage. There's all these different types of things out there that allegedly help tighten and firm the skin. If they do work, though, they've been found to work short-term. It's not a permanent fix. Liposuction, kind of targets that.
Mhm.
And then there's also, believe it or not, eating a healthy diet, exercising can help tone the muscles underneath and so kind of help diminish the appearance of some cellulite. But yeah, that's kind of whoever develops the 100% effective cure for cellulite is on easy street for the rest of his or her life.
Yeah, there's other procedures like cool sculpting where they'll use cold and they'll try to freeze the fat cells and try to get you the. So they do all kind of ways to get rid of
But
it,
I
but
don't know how long. I don't know the long-term effects of those. Like I said, that would be a great topic for a plastic surgeon, because yes, they are aesthetic or estheticians or estheticians who are performing those procedures. Um,
mhm.
to help kind of sculpt and get rid of. But that's going to be again, just keep in mind that's for that superficial fat. That's not going to be for the visceral, but just the cellulite, like she asked. How much weight training versus cardio should be done to lessen the belly fat and lower BMI? That is a great question. So again, speaking in generalities, you of course are going to start with your doctor because that's going to depend on what your underlying health status is. But typically, what we recommend is that you want to aim for 150 minutes of exercise per week, and you want that to be a mix of high intensity strength training. You've got to build some time in there for restorative because you don't want to just hit hard, hard, hard all the time. That actually tears down muscles, and that's not helpful. So it's a good idea to have a good mix, some yoga, some Pilates, core strengthening. So I would say, as far as weight training, definitely if you're new to it, after you've gotten the word go from your doctor, get with a personal trainer because you want
Mhm.
to make sure you're in the gym safely or at home, wherever you're exercising. Um, but then they can help you target those areas, but definitely increasing your cardio because when you're burning, fat, when you're exercising in your target heart zone, that's where you burn fat, and that's where even hours after you're done exercising, your metabolic rate is high enough that you're still getting those benefits. So, factoring in time most days out of the week, 3 to 5 days minimum, um, but also striking that balance where you're not just overdoing it and you want to be able to let the body restore itself, and that way you come back stronger the next time.
Couple of quick things that other things I would suggest is this is really if you're going to start stepping up your exercise, you need to coincide that with a change in diet, right? Because what happens is it's going to slow your progress if you're doing all this working out and exercising and you're still eating a lot of fatty foods that are high in sugars and things like that, because your body's going to store it and it's going to slow down that process. And you're not going to feel as good after you exercise if you're eating all this fatty food. So Great thing to do is after you eat a meal, try to eat your dinners earlier in the evening so you give you time, more time to process it. Take a walk after that meal. So that's why I say eat it earlier. So you, especially now that we're getting close to spring and summertime, we get some daylight savings. You've got more daylight to do a walk after you eat. That helps your body process some of the foods and the sugars that you eat with your in your meal. Fitness bands, right? So if you don't want to lift those heavy weights, if you feel like that's bulky or whatever, fitness bands work, and you can do that at home. Get the bands that go around your legs, and then you can do some squatting and some side to side, and you can also get the bands that you can do shoulder presses, things of that nature. So those things really help, because what we don't want to do is create barriers that are so high that people just don't even get started in terms of exercising. So walking first, brisk walking, but you got to get that heart rate up. So it can't be a stroll, can't be a lover stroll. What I need for you to do is do some intense brisk walking, get your heart rate up, get a sweat, start to expel, where you got them to really breathe harder, and do that and sustain that as much as you can. Again, see your doctor first before you start anything. Go see your doctor before you do start any type of exercises like that. But those are the things that really will get you a fitness band, and really just find something that works for you. We've got multiple shows here on blackdoctor.org that you can do in the comfort of your home. Elena, she's a fan of the show. She's on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 30 minutes. You can get up in the morning, 8 a.m., 30 minutes, and you can always go back and watch it. So if you have to leave before then, you can always go back and watch it. And now we've got Fitness Knob, and she is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she's got a unique program that you can watch there, and that's also at 8 a.m. So multiple ways. Get in there. There's no excuse to not get started and start changing your life and your.
And I just want to piggyback on something you said about eating, pairing the exercise with eating correctly. And then we showed the Toyota commercial last time. And I've been using this analogy in over 20 years of practice. I would always tell my patients, think about your body as a car, right? If you had a
Right.
Ferrari, a Jaguar, whatever, you're not going to put the crappiest, lowest octane gas in there, right? You're going to put the 93, 95, whatever it is, because you're not, if you put lower than that, why would you expect the car to perform, right? It's going to stall out. It's
Right.
going to, jerk. It's going to be sluggish. Your body's the same way. So if you want your body to perform, please fuel it with the best quality foods that you can afford, that you have access to most days out of the week. Now, if you want to have a cheat day or whatever, just don't make it a cheat month or a cheat year, right? You want to get back on track. And the other thing I want to recommend too, and when we're talking about exercise, is making sure your gear is appropriate. Not saying that you have to go out and buy the $100 sports bras, but if you're going to be doing any running, cross training, just like your car tires have to be rotated and changed, so
Yep.
does the tread on your sneakers, right? So if you're putting those miles in, check and make sure they're not, wearing unevenly, because that can lead to ankle and knee and hip pain. And then you'll be like, well, why am I hurting? It could be coming from your shoe wear. Also make sure you get, and maybe invest in a couple of pieces of lifting. What is he laughing
Somebody
at?
said cheat minutes, not cheat days. Cheat minutes.
Achievement, right? Um, you want to invest in, or wear loose clothes that allow air to circulate, so that you're comfortable. You want to be able to sweat, and you want that sweat to be able to evaporate and maintain your body temperature. There's some really cool outfits out there now, or workout gear now that helps to really address that. But again, don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. Sure, if you're working out outside, dress in layers that can be removed, so as your body warms up, you can adjust to that. It really doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be what works for you, something that keeps you engaged, and keeps you coming back. And get that accountability buddy. I think that's another big thing that people sometimes forget. Tag a friend and do a workout with a friend, or at least have someone hold you accountable. What are they
Accountability
saying?
partners work. Accountability partners work. Journaling your food. I would say definitely in the beginning, if you're starting a new exercise program, journal what you eat, because I think the number is talking, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 3,750 calories equals a pound.
3,500.
3,500 calories equals a pound. So if you start journaling what you're eating, if you're eating more than 3,500 calories than what your recommended daily allowance is, guess what? You're going to get that poundage start adding up on your body. So if you're writing it down, you can see where you can cut and where you can substitute snacks, right? So if you're eating a bad snack, you can mix in a piece of fruit, apple, still crave those, in those hunger cravings, but and get the nutrients you need without the calories and all the fat and sugars that come with improper snacking. So you do need to snack between meals, keep your metabolism, especially as we get older, our metabolism tends to slow down. So snacking really, really helps, but you have to eat healthy snacks, nuts, fruits, things of that nature, not those chips and other things that we typically snack on. Energy bars are not always the best because they have a lot of sugar. They have a lot of sugar in there. So eat healthy and natural snacks, not the easy. I know they're easy, right? You put them in, they got the sugar, so you feel full. Hey, that's great. I ate this energy bar, but there's a lot of sugar that you got to process. So
or later.
okay, you got the crash. So yes, you can. So I saw a question about can you do a treadmill? Yes, you can do a treadmill always. And
Yeah.
yes, please. That's fine.
You do
I'm a
whatever
treadmill guy. I'm not a fan of running outside.
you do whatever is safe for you, whatever's doable for you, whatever your body allows you to do. And then before we close, I do want to just add one more comment about fat that I wanted to bring out is leptin, leptin. That's actually, there's a lot of research going on with that now. And I do believe that in the future we'll see a targeted treatment. But leptin is basically a hormone that helps to regulate our fat cells. And so when you lose weight, your leptin actually, I think it goes up because it helps to kind of bring back the fat. And when you gain weight, it down regulates. So it's there's a lot to come. They'll be on the lookout for leptin because I think the story is still being told about that and how we can use it to treat obesity in the future.
Right, right. And I always love to say obesity is a diagnosis, not a description. Okay, so understand that you can overcome it. As with any diagnosis, you can't overcome obesity. You just got to put in the work. So don't just say, "Oh, it's a label and it's a description." It's a diagnosis. Anything can be treated.
So next week we are going to talk about, spring is coming. It's almost here. So I want to spend some time talking about some foods that are in season in spring and how
Oh
you
yeah,
add them in your diet. And maybe may hopefully we'll introduce you to some new ones, or maybe give you some tips on how to use the old ones in new ways. But yeah, let's start thinking about seasonality and how that should look on your plate going into spring and summer.
I'm looking forward to that one. I'm just putting it here on the screen so next week got spring foods and seasons. And as always, each week we like to say, make sure you like, comment, share, and tag
And
the
thank you.
program here. Follow Dr. May. She's got great advice, and we're going to have some more of her content on blackdoctor.org. We're really excited about that partnership. So we're going to have you can get more of Dr. May. So not just on Thursdays, you can go to blackdoctor.org and get recipes and all kinds of stuff and great advice. So like, comment, share, and tag, and always follow at Physician on the Kitchen, in the kitchen. Sorry,
In the kitchen on
in the
Instagram,
kitchen.
all social media. That's
There
right.
you go.
I've got a beet. You guys have got to check it out. I've got a beet spaghetti recipe on there that you guys are not. It's gonna blow your mind. Gotta go check it out.
Absolutely. And also today is triple negative breast cancer day. So you always make sure,
Okay.
for Black women in particular, triple negative breast cancer is a killer. It can be very, very deadly. It attacks it earlier and it's harder to treat. So make sure that you get your mammograms on a regular basis. And if you have a denser breast, because there's been some research that's shown that Black women have a higher breast tissue density,
Mhm.
uh, get your ultrasound, get your MRI, make sure that you can get all the information that you need so you don't get a lot too late.
Early is key. Early is definitely key. Well, everybody, that is it for tonight. We will be back this time next week. So we look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you so much and bring your questions and your ideas. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Y'all take care.